What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Phaithful Phanatics Show. We are live here on a Friday morning on Dsm Media's Philadelphia YouTube and Twitter channels. Guys, first and foremost, as I say to start every show, if you are watching on Twitter, we greatly appreciate you. However, we cannot see your comments if you guys are trying to be interactive. Whatever StreamYard and Twitter still have their issues with. So do yourself a favor, do us a favor. Help us get to our first 200 subscribers on the newer channel by heading on over to the YouTube link specifically. Subscribe. It is the best and only spot to get your comments pulled up here on the screen with your host. I'm one half of your host this morning, Dylan Davis. You can find me on Twitter at DylanJD98. To my right, my faithful co-host Scotty. You can find him as well at Scotty Drowned. Excuse the congestion, the stuffiness. Of course, dude. Of course. We're right on the cusp of football season. I mean, at least I guess I'm getting it out of the way 2 weeks prior, Scotty. But
right
of course,
time.
We get our first a taste of college football this Saturday at noon for week 0. I don't even know why or how that's a thing, but I'll take regular season college football under my belt. But of course, the sinuses or whatever the fuck this is has to start up, man. So
that shit's
what's
the worst.
going on, man? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Shout out to Marsha getting in here early, man. No Phillies talk. We're definitely not starting with the Fightins, bro. We talked about that before the show started. We're going to start this Friday in a positive manner. Dylan's already got the sinus infection going, man. We don't need any more negativity right at this moment. We are going to get to it, though, later in the show, which should be interesting. Because I think I don't know about you, Dylan. I'm ready to take the kid gloves off with this team. I'm not panicking yet. I'm not that far. But I am ready to take the kid gloves off with the team and start to hold them a little bit more accountable themselves. But we'll obviously
where I'm at, man. With the Phillies, like I said, we're gonna start with the Jahan Dotson trade with the Eagles. What does this do for this team, this offense as a whole? Dotson himself, because it was a big deal yesterday morning to get that deal done, with just over 2 weeks before the regular season starts. But where I'm at with the Phillies, man,
this man just calls me every light-skinned athlete in Philadelphia history that has like a chubby cheek face, like a round face. I'm every athlete.
Brandon Brooks is a good one. It is a comp.
Andre Dillard was a good one. And Taiwan Walker because of the hair. I feel all of them, man. I'm not gonna argue with them.
But where I'm at with this Phillies team, man, we'll touch on it later on in the show. But like you said, taking the kid gloves off, being a little bit more accountable. Again, it has nothing to do with their long-term goals or plans or expectations for this season. But I am starting to get a little bit more increasingly frustrated on a game-by-game perspective. So with that said, I'm going to be a little bit more tough on them game by game than I have been, because I've just been shrugging it off, brush it off your shoulders. They're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. I still believe they're going to be fine at some point, but I'm growing increasingly aggravated with how this team looks on a given night, whether the bullpen's blowing a late lead, whether the bats look lethargic like they've looked in the past in the postseason, just like they did all of this Atlanta series in a big time series. At the end of the day, they took one of the 3. Their lead went from 7 to 6. Not the end of the world. They do get Atlanta at the bank next weekend for 4. That could potentially
be the telling one.
Depending on what happens in between this week and a half, between that series starts up. That potentially you're looking at a season-altering series at Citizens Bank Park. So the fans will bring it. The question is, will the Bats and will the Phillies bring it? But let's start with the Birds.
Yes, sir.
The Phillies are pushing me more towards the Birds right now. I cannot wait for football season to start. And Howie Roseman just continues to do an incredible job at assembling what I believe is one of the best rosters in the National Football League. He's done this for the last 3 to 4 seasons now, but this year just feels right, just feels special, man. All off season for the last couple of shows, the last couple of weeks, you and I have talked at great lengths about depth and about skill and about talent all over this team, but especially on the offensive side of the ball. But the one spot they lacked was a wide receiver 3. And not even so much at the lack of talent at that position. I think Paris Campbell could be a serviceable wide receiver 3. You don't know what you're going to get in a John Ross or a rookie in Johnny Wilson. Maybe he gets red zone targets. But I think you could have made it work from that perspective. But also having a guy in your wide receiver 3 who's a stud at that position, but also gives you some depth and some comfortability. God forbid one of your first 2 wide receivers in Smitty or AJ has to miss a little bit of time. Because when you bring in a guy like Jahan Dotson, who's still on his rookie contract, who can take the top off of a defense at any given moment, can run every route on a route tree, can hit you underneath. Jahan Dotson is a guy in the slot that can do every single thing for this team. Kellen Moore loves to use 3 wide receivers. And not only did you get him his 3rd wide receiver, Howie Roseman has now put together and acquired over the last couple of years the best wide receiver trio in the National Football League. Dude, this trade is a huge deal for me. I think this takes this team, this offense, to an even higher level than we were hoping for. And I think, Scotty, it makes them the best offense in football. On paper, it makes them the best offense in football.
Yeah, no, I can't argue with that, man. I will say this from the last part that you said there. For my money, I think they were the best offensive football anyways, even before they got him.
Possibly.
But this is a major plus to your point, man. You talk about Jahan Dotson coming from Washington, obviously had over 500 receiving yards in his first 2 seasons, had over 4 receiving touchdowns his first 2 seasons, 7 in his rookie year. And that's playing with Washington Commanders quarterbacks. That's playing opposite of Terry McLaurin, and then who else, right? Like, who else is in that offense?
Taylor Heineke and Carson Wentz at one point.
Yeah. And then last year we had Sam Howell, who he was letting it fly, but obviously not the greatest quarterback in the world if they moved on from him after 1 season. So I'm excited to see what Dotson looks like next to A.J. Brown, Saquon, Devontae Smith, Goddard, and with Jalen Hurts throwing him the ball as well. I think we could see in a little bit more flashes of his talent, maybe the same production, right? He's not going to produce that much more. I don't think he's going to come in and get 1,000 yards, but the 500 receiving yards would do so well at wide receiver 3, right? That sounds fantastic. The other thing here, man, you mentioned the injury, like if Smitty was to go down. Last year we lost AJ right before the playoff game. We would have loved to have had Jahan Dotson in that matchup against the Bucs, right? But on top of that, it also like kind of eliminates what could turn stale, if that makes sense. Like, we've seen this offense, especially last season, once the season got long, that offense went stale. They didn't really have any other facets of the offense that they felt they could add in. That's partially Nick Sirianni, partially Brian Johnson last year as offensive coordinator, lacking creativity. We know we got Kellen Moore in here who brings a lot more to the table. But you add Jahan Dotson, that's another wrinkle into the offense that the defense has to be prepared for, which just gives you another element of surprise with this offense. And that's what excites me about it, man, along with everything that you threw out there. And I think the other thing, we got to see him nice and closely. He's a guy that has cooked the Eagles at times,
I mean, right? Scored that game tying Tutty at the Link last year when Sam Howell and company went right down to tie things up at like 31 or 38. That crazy ass game in the middle of the season last year. So
Penn State guy. So gotta love it, man. You gotta love it.
Right. He's already got the connection with Saquon. You see the tweets from CGJ, from Darius Slay, from Saquon himself. It's a welcome addition, man, and it just makes me even more excited for
Did it surprise you?
Season. Surprise? No, because I think even you and I Wednesday talked about the rumors that have been swirling from beat reporters and other content creators to have a little bit more, leverage and some inside sources that have mentioned that Howie was looking for a wide receiver 3. I just think that Jahan Dotson himself was the best case scenario for myself. Like, I know John Mechie was starting out there from Houston. This blows that out of the water. You and I were talking before the show. Michael Thomas was another name. At this point in Michael Thomas's career, the injury concerns, I would take Jahan Dotson at this point. If not, it's a toss-up. And I think that says great lengths about the player that Jahan Dotson can be. Look, in 2 years with the Washington Commanders, Scotty, he's won over 500 yards. 523 his rookie year with 7 touchdowns, and last year 518 with 4 touchdowns. His rookie year, he averaged about 15 yards per catch. Last year, he averaged over 10.5 yards per catch. If he can just replicate that, then it's a gold mine for this Eagles offense. If he can just give you 500 to 600 yards, he might be able to give you more within Kellen Moore's offense with playing with Jalen Hurts, having all these extra weapons aside him and causing space and better matchups for him. But if he can just give you that, that is something this Eagles offense has sorely lacked the last couple of years. No matter how great they were in 2022, no matter how good they looked at times or how much Jalen overcame last year, Quez Watkins, Alameda Zacchaeus last year, excuse me. Just not cutting it, man. Even when they went out in 22 and grabbed from Indianapolis. Why am I drawing a blank on his
Pascal.
name?
Yeah,
Zach Pascal. Used him as a blocker half the time, 90% of the time he was on the field. So to me, Jahan Dotson is an A+ of a trade for the Eagles. Not to mention they also gathered a 5th round draft pick with him. Like it was Jahan Dotson and a 5th for a 3rd and 2 7ths. I don't know what the Washington Commanders are thinking or doing. But Howie Roseman just continues to go to work.
And to answer Martian's question here, any red flags the Commanders trading away a former 1st-round pick? No. Maybe if it wasn't the Commanders, then it would be a red flag.
If it wasn't that organization.
But
if it wasn't
the other thing I wanted to throw, because you mentioned the season numbers, and I think that's a great point because the 500 yards at wide receiver 3, that's great. Like that means our offense is booming this year, in my opinion, if he gets those numbers. But it's also the ability to basically go out. If Jahan Dotson is having a game per se, he can win you a game. Like I don't mean it like that. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
I'm just looking at this game last year. I wanted to go back to the game against Philly where it did go into overtime. He did have that game-tying touchdown. He had 8 receptions in that game, 10 targets, 108 receiving yards, and a touchdown in that game. That's winning you a game, right? They lost that game, mind you, but he kept them in that game. And that's what I'm saying. Like, if you have another weapon there that can get you over 100 yards in a game, can get you over 5 catches in a game, I mean, who's stopping this offense?
He has wide receiver 1 capabilities.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. That's what I was trying to get out there because that's exactly what I meant. He has wide receiver 1 capabilities, but he's going to be our wide receiver 3.
Yeah.
How much pressure does this? Maybe not this specifically, right? It is just wide receiver 3, but it's a great wide receiver 3. It once again adds to this offense and what they should be this regular season and going into the postseason. How much pressure does this put on Jalen Hurts? How much pressure does Jalen Hurts already have on him anyways without this? Like, but obviously throw this in. This creates like, I don't know if you can find a better like picture perfect offensive layout.
You can't.
Like,
and the new coordinator that has had success everywhere he's gone, with different styles of quarterback, with Dak Prescott, with Justin Herbert. He's had top 5 offenses. Basically every single season, Kellen Moore has been a coordinator in this league. It is pressure to a degree. I just think it means there's no excuses.
Yeah.
Like, unless Jalen were to get severely injured and hindered like he was last year, because you're hearing all the reports about how fresh he looks and how quick he looks like his rookie year.
He's running a little bit.
Shot to the knee in week 2, and from that point on, you can see it limiting what he can do. Then that's an excuse. But in terms of reading a defense, delivering the football, putting up points, making sure this is a high-flying offense, no, there are no excuses for Jalen Hurts. And I guess with that statement comes pressure, right? Because you are coming off of a down year in 23. The expectations are you are fighting for the NFC. And if you underperform or you're whatever, an average middle of the pack offense, I'm going to be looking directly at you.
Like, I don't think we can afford
pressure. I don't know.
I don't think we can afford specifically, like, we need to win the division. Like, with the way this team has been stacked
listen to me.
Like, that's a no-brainer, right?
Without a doubt. Dude, that's enough. People, if there was ever a comp to the Phillies and Eagles, because I hate those right now with all the Phillies frustration and people keep looking at the Eagles collapse and Sirianni versus Thompson and all that stuff. There was ever a comparison. People keep talking about how the Phillies need to hold on to the NL East, and that's true. Like, it would be a major failure if they blew that lead and lose the division to an injured Braves team. the Eagles need to. It is not okay to be the first wild card spot this year. It is not okay.
Yeah.
I don't care if you win 11 games and
Yeah.
you're wild. You better win 12 if that's what it takes. You better win 30 because we know the Giants and the Commanders are not going to be competing. We know that. They might be feisty, like the Commanders with Jaden Daniels. They might put up points here.
Yeah.
I don't even know that because who do they have to really get the ball to? But you get my point. They're going to give you an issue in one of the games you play, maybe, right? Dallas did nothing this year. They lost Tony Pollard and brought back Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah.
They lost
Stephon Gilmore, gone.
Michael Gatt, like they have CeeDee Lamb and nothing.
Yeah.
So
there's no excuses
there. It should not. There should not be a competition for the NFC East, man. I'm sorry.
Is the offensive line the most concerning piece of the offense now? Was it always that way, I guess? The offensive line being the most concerning.
Yeah, I mean, I think so, right? Because
maybe concern isn't the right word to use.
Question mark, sure. Because obviously you move on from
mark.
Jason Kelce. You do have a spot at that. What is that? The right guard spot. Where is the left guard spot? Whatever it is.
Right guard. I think Landon's
wherever Mekhi Becton or Tyler Steen's going to play. So you have two question marks. Cam Jurgens replacing Jason Kelce, and then that other guard spot with a new body, new face in there. And then health obviously has always been a concern when it comes to the offensive line. Because and it's almost by default at this point because of how he's built.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we believe we have our QB1, right? We believe we have our franchise. We have a top 3 to 5 running back in the world. We have, for my money, let's not call him top 5. What's he? Top 8 type of tight end, top 7 type of tight end.
Yeah.
And what?
The
best wide receiver. The best
wide receiver trio in the league, easily.
So for sure.
2 top 15. So I feel you.
I don't like to steal quotes. So as much as I have a distaste for him from time to time in Emmanuel Acho, I absolutely loved what he had to say yesterday on his show when it came to this Jahan Dotson edition for the Eagles. And essentially they were sitting there around talking about not only what he can bring to the table, but those money downs, right? And they were basically explaining 3rd and 6 and shorter in the NFL, you're playing man-to-man. And what you have with this Jahan Dotson edition now is like CB1 has to take A.J. Brown. CB2 has to take Devontae Smith. And now you're forced with a safety or a slot corner on Jahan Dotson. And those guys don't run 4.3s, 4.4. Those guys are running high 4.5, or mid 4.5, stuff like that. And with Jahan Dotson's speed and route running, there's just not really a slot corner that's going to be able to keep up with him or a safety that can keep up with him. And on those money downs specifically, if AJ doesn't win, which he wins a lot, Smitty's going to win. And if Smitty doesn't win, which he wins a lot, Dotson's going to win. And if those 3 can't win, Goddard's going to win over the middle. And if Goddard can't win over the middle, Saquon's going to win on one of the linebackers. Like, there's just too many options in this Eagles defense or in this Eagles opposing defenses to play man-to-man coverage against them, man. And even not on those money downs. If AJ, like I said, if AJ doesn't win, one of the other two's gone. If Dotson can't win his matchup, AJ or Smitty, like it's just that's what this did. It completed everything. Like that, I know that sounds dumb. Like there was that one hole because, like you said before, we've seen teams be able to take away our first 2 from time to time. Now that also could have been from play calling last year, and we don't know what it will look like with Kellen Moore, but you no longer can do that. Like, I don't know. I'm literally getting giddy thinking about how do they not just take the ball down the field 85 of the possessions? I know that's not feasible. I know it's not going to happen, but how? How do they not just march right down the field 90% of the time?
I'll answer that question for you. I just wanted to say one thing regarding Goddard as well, because we know Goddard is a guy that the main thing with him is health, right? Staying on the field. And now you have another guy there that if Goddard goes down, like not only is he insurance for your wide receivers, he's also insurance for a guy like Dallas Goedert. If he goes down, you still have that nice 3-weapon capability out there on the outside and in the slot. So I think even there it helps. But to answer your question, and this is why I asked about like pressure expectations earlier, it's Jalen Hurts. Like Jalen Hurts is how they don't score the touchdowns, in my opinion. Like, obviously, there's going to be times where maybe a guy drops a pass, some guy makes a mistake on a route, maybe, somebody else fumbles the ball after a catch. These things happen, right? But when you look at this offense holistically, there's two things that could go possibly wrong. It's the offensive line. Cam Jurgens just not being NFL ready. He just cannot be in the middle of your offensive line. He can't man your offensive line. That's one worry. We just don't know. He doesn't have a ton of NFL experience, especially at the center position. The right guard, as you mentioned, those are concerns, but more question marks than concerns. The other side of it is Jalen Hurts. If he's turning the ball over like he did last year, now, once again, a little bit beat up last year. The knee wasn't fully put together last year. He wasn't able to run like we're used to seeing him do. But he did have a ton of turnovers last year. It did cost the offense in big moments. And that was ultimately how we did lose some games last year. So I think to answer your question, like what could stop this off? I don't think anything's stopping like the offense from a holistic standpoint. But when you think about things that could hinder the offense, the only things I can view right now is the offensive line, whether it be the two question marks on the offensive line or Lane Johnson or Jordan Mailata injury concerns. Right.
Injuries are always going to play a factor. But
and then Jalen Hurts is the other side of it. Yeah. He's the only thing. Like, there's no excuses for him. Like, there's no excuses for him. But I'm not like doubting him either. I don't want it to seem like that.
I get what you're saying.
This is what it is.
Right. This isn't a James Jones quote of, I think Jalen Hurts can or would hold the Eagles offense back.
Right. It's not just him a detractor.
If something is to go wrong, if this offense is not flowing, what am I theoretically supposed to point to right now?
Right.
Right. And I don't believe that's going to happen. Just like you, it's just
I guess coaching could be another thing. Right, coaching, like if Kellen Moore just sucks.
Yeah, but Kellen Moore's track record's already
shouldn't.
Proven. Right. But I will play devil's advocate just for a second here when it comes to Jalen and that pressure and expectations we're talking about is going back to something I said a few weeks ago with the already stellar offense they had put in place. The Eagles can compete for a Super Bowl if Jalen Hurts is just above average.
Yeah.
Like if Jalen Hurts is semi-game manager, protects the football, gets the throws out on time, uses his legs here and there, creates big plays sparingly, they are a NFC contender.
Yeah, if they win the division.
If Jalen Hurts is top 5 to 7 or top 5 to 8 type of player, MVP conversation, they are Super Bowl favorites.
Yeah.
With what this Jahan Dotson thing did now is it gave him even more leeway to just be an average quarterback because that's just another guy, another weapon to just get the ball out to on time, in rhythm, and let make plays. If that meant because now you don't have to go out and play hero ball. If AJ goes down for a week, like there's no Jalen Hurts. He can play hero ball. We've seen it. We even did it last year on a bum knee. Buffalo. Anyone remember that win in overtime? Yeah. Like he can put together incredible performances, but he doesn't have to anymore with what Howie and Kellen Moore can put together within this offense. It's just if he does, they are without a doubt the best offense in the National Football League, and there's no questions about it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. When you look across the board here, I don't know any other team that really
Scotty, bro.
Matches up.
Let's go back to that NFL Network or whatever ranking of the top offenses they put out a month and a half ago. Do you remember that? We talked about it when I was.
I do. I would love to see that ranking right now.
I mean, and Jahan Dotson moved them to number 1. Right, Jahan Dotson himself should not just bolster the Eagles so far from what they've already had, but I mean, add him to this mix. What are we talking about, man? Like, seriously, the Green Bay Packers, are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding? I'm saying they're the best offense in football, and you're trying to tell me the likes of, like, the Green Bay Packers are still ahead of them?
Well, because there's been like some consensus made that Jordan Love is better than Jalen Hurts,
Oh yeah,
and I guess
Jordan Love
I
win the MVP this year.
I missed that memo at some point last season where Jordan Love like eclipsed Jalen Hurts, but yeah, it is interesting to think about that because I would love to see where they rank now.
The Chiefs are not a better offense than the Eagles.
No, Patrick Mahomes is just a better quarterback.
Yeah, he's the best in the world.
That's
Travis
it.
Kelce's the best in the world. But an offense, they do not have a better offense than the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, because if you stack them up across the board, it's laid out in front of you. Mahomes wins his battle, Kelce wins his battle, and then from there, what other Chief is winning their battle?
I'll continue to take it a step further, like another high-flying team from last year. And yeah, but that has to do with play calling. And if Kellen Moore can be anything close to that, it's not close. The Detroit Lions do not have a better offense than the Philadelphia Eagles, talent-wise. Yeah. Like last year, we know
who's their wide receiver.
Lions had a better offense than the Philadelphia Eagles, but the play calling and who's over there? Dave Canales, is that who's in? Is that who's or no? Dave Canales is somewhere else. Who's
Ben Thomas?
Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson.
Ben Johnson. Excuse me, Ben Thomas.
Yeah.
Ben Johnson. Yeah, the head coaching candidate.
Like he has them going, but like let's just stop, right? Like Jahmyr Gibbs or Saquon Barkley, Jared Goff or Jalen Hurts. Amon-Ra and AJ, you can toss up.
Close, but I'm still going to take AJ.
And who's their number 2?
I think it's J-Mo. But I might be wrong. It might be Josh Reynolds. I mean, either way.
Stop.
Either way.
Look, if you want to, after 1 year, give Laporta the edge over Goddard, I can maybe get behind you, but that's a lot closer than people outside think as well. Like, the Eagles are, on paper, the number 1 offense in the National Football League, and I cannot wait to see it play out, man, because
who do you think's whose wide receiver trio do you think even comes close, like off the top of your head?
The Texans off the top, like literally that's immediately where I went to. It used to be Cincinnati, but when you lose Tyler Boyd in that slot and now you're down to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. No, and also like, okay, if you want to say Jamar is better than AJ, I can get behind you. T. Higgins is not better than Devontae Smith as a wide receiver too.
Yeah. And then who?
Right, and then let's look at their depth chart now.
Up? I mean, Chicago's they're not. Chicago is not better, but Chicago has a pretty decent trio there with Roman
Andre Sovas is the Bengals' third wide receiver right now. Chicago's an interesting, and again, we'll get into that on Turf Talk next week. But Chicago does have a nice wide receiver trio, especially with the Roma Dunze pick. But no three. Like, here's the issue: none of them even sniff AJ Brown.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Yeah. DJ there's got to be a guy. Like, you have a very good trio,
Allen, maybe.
But there's got to be a guy that can sniff our number 1, and then you trickle on from there.
Because I mean, is DJ Moore better than Smitty? I think that's the real conversation. Like, those are probably the 2 guys that are in the same tier. Maybe. I mean, Keenan Allen's probably in that tier as well, but those are 2 guys that would come into the Eagles and be wide receiver 2s.
If the Rams had a slot receiver, they'd be up there. But
Puka Nacua and Cooper.
Right,
Cooper
but
Kupp
they have DeMarcus Robinson and Tutu Atwell. You don't compete there. So, yeah, man.
There's really nobody else. Who's Miami's third receiver? I mean,
Braxton Berrios.
Yeah.
Fucking Alex Earl's boyfriend.
Right. That's his name. Alex Earl's boyfriend.
No disrespect. Seems like a cool dude, but
yeah, man, I'm beyond excited. I mean, that was just like the icing on top of the cake when I saw that trade.
Right, and here's the other thing though, Scotty, that like we haven't even mentioned now, right? So AJ, Smitty, Dotson, right? They're going to start. That's going to be your core. That's your trio. But now a guy like Paris Campbell becomes available to be a fourth option. Now Paris Campbell's a backup slot receiver. That's something not a lot of teams have on their roster or to their availability. So it just pushes the line further down. It creates more depth, just like that cornerback and safety room we talk about a lot. Fuck, man, I cannot wait.
Mentioning the cornerback and safety room, I believe I heard, I don't know if it's confirmed, but Cooper DeJean is supposed to suit up in the last preseason game.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. So he could be back for the regular season, which is obviously It's huge, like just to get him ready for the regular season. That way, we don't have any setbacks to start the year. He can get nicely ingrained to start the season. But yeah, man, I'm beyond excited. Obviously, with where the Phillies are at right now, I'm just ready for Eagles football to be back, man. We got like 2 weeks max, right? Like at max 2 weeks right now that we're waiting for this first game.
It is 2 weeks from today. Like
literally
2 weeks from
2
right
weeks.
now,
You're
we
right.
will be on here breaking down keys to victory and
Eagles in
predictions
Brazil.
and standout stars and all that.
That is the one thing I wish they just weren't going to Brazil week 1. That feels like a setback in itself. But luckily the schedule isn't.
And doesn't it count as is it a home game for us? I keep forgetting that.
Well, since we have the extra game, it's technically a home game, but it equals out anyways. We're gonna have 8 home and 8 away regardless, in reality, but still annoying because I think who do we play the next week? Is it the Falcons week 2?
Yeah, on Monday night.
It's gonna be a tough game as well.
This is the third straight. Wait, this is the third straight year we get primetime Kirk Cousins in week 2 at the Link.
That is facts.
We had Monday Night Football 2022 at the Link against Minnesota. We had Thursday Night Football at the Link against Minnesota week 2 last year. And now we have Monday Night Football week 2 at the Link against Atlanta, who acquired, obviously, Kirk Cousins. By the way, do I think Atlanta wins the NFC South? Yes, I do. I think that defense is going to be very good if they use Bijan properly like they should. I do think Kirk Cousins is a good, I think he's a good quarterback, regular season quarterback, right?
Yeah.
But I do have a question. I don't know if you saw the clip or not. And this is where he pisses me off, being a former quarterback, and he just backs every single quarterback that gets any type of slander or hate. Who the fuck does Dan Orlovsky think Kirk Cousins is? Honestly, who does he think he is, dude?
Yeah.
He went on national television yesterday and talked about how the Atlanta Falcons are Super Bowl contenders now because they acquired Kirk mother effing Cousins. Super Bowl contenders. They couldn't win 7 games 2 years ago. They didn't make the playoffs last year. Now, okay, quarterback play. I get you. Kirk.
And he tore his Achilles last year?
Yeah,
Is that what it was? Or
was his ACL?
Injury,
late in his
Either
career.
way, major injury. Yeah.
Kirk Cousins.
I don't know, man. I get it. Like they've added talent to this roster. Like they've really upgraded the roster. Like I'm not gonna deny them that.
I think they win their division. I think they win their division. I don't think
we'll see, man. We'll see. We'll see. I agree. I think they win their division, but like Super Bowl contenders, like I'm saying, they are a tough team on the schedule, respectfully.
Scotty, he's never won a playoff game.
But that's not saying a lot.
Never won a playoff game. He poops his pants on national television and primetime football each and every year. He's played with Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson and some top 10 defenses in Minnesota and never won a goddamn thing. And now he's going to go and take the formerly poverty Atlanta Falcons and bolster them to Super Bowl contenders. They drafted a quarterback inside the top 15 after signing him.
Right.
You think there's not going to be any stirring down in Atlanta this year? I mean, come on, man.
Because I guess all the hype comes from Bijan. Fair enough. Bijan is a stud. We know that.
Yeah.
But Drake London, he looks like he could be good. Like he had 900 receiving yards last year, only 2 receiving touchdowns. Obviously, questionable quarterback play and beyond. Right, it was more than questionable. But are these guys for real? Like Kyle Pitts, like. Is he that generational tight end that everybody talked about when he was coming out of college? Or is he just not that good? And I think that maybe they're falling in love with this Kirk Cousins thinking that he can help them reach their potential. But I don't know. I'm more in the wait and see camp. I think they're good enough to win the division, like you said.
What we just talked about with offenses when it comes to the Eagles and other teams around the league, right? And like you said, Pitts, the ceiling – top 5 draft pick as tight end, the ceiling, the athleticism, the size is there. Bijan, stud. Drake London, I think is cute. Like I think Drake London's maybe a top 18 receiver, maybe. like borderline top 20 receiver. That's your number one. Your number two is Darnell Mooney. Your number three is Ray McLeod. You have no depth behind any of those three. You have a good offensive line. You have a great running back. And you have a really good defense. That's what they have. That's good enough to win the South.
Their defense, I do like their defense.
A playoff game, okay?
Yeah.
But, like, think about this. You're now talking about the Atlanta Falcons because of the addition of Kirk Cousins. I just read you their skill position players. And they're a Super Bowl contender. But on the same network, same people think the Eagles are going to take another step backwards.
Yeah.
What are you guys analyzing? What are you analyzing?
Their defense does look good, though. I will say that. They picked up Justin Simmons at the safety position.
Right.
You already had Jesse
Bates.
Picked up
Matthew Judon. Yep.
You got AJ Terrell locked up at corner. You got Okuda, who obviously had potential a couple years ago. He's dealt with injuries. Grady Jackson at the DT spot. Or Grady Jarrett, excuse me. God, I'm getting names wrong today. Got to get my NFL brain back. But, Grady Jarrett at the on the defensive line. So they got a good-looking defense for sure. Yeah. They play in a dome, so it does create a little excitement there. I don't know. I can't.
Look, they have a recipe to win ball games. They have a very good defense. They have a great offensive line with a great running back. That's run the ball and play defense. That's going to win you football games.
Yeah,
it's not going to win you a Super Bowl in this day and age with Kirk Cousins under center. So,
who would you?
I only brought that up because the Eagles slander from some people.
Where would you place them in the NFC? I know we'll obviously talk about this more like as we get into the actual divisions on Turf Talk, right. But like, where would you place them for real in the NFC?
All right, so I have the Eagles and the Niners are going to win their divisions, right?
Yeah.
I think
not Rams, even divisions, just like even if they're second in the division, would you take them over the Falcons?
Okay. I think the Rams are better than them still. Detroit, Green Bay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Dallas is.
They're right there. Yeah, I was gonna ask you, like, are they better than Dallas? Because like Dallas didn't improve, but I don't know. Dak just always puts up fucking numbers. Like, I'm not gonna take anything away from him there. Like, the offense does put up numbers, but they just keep losing talent on that unit at the same time. Like, when does it finally hinder them?
I think I think Atlanta is somewhere around 7 in the NFC.
Like 5 to 7, anywhere in that range, maybe.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, I think 6 to 7. I don't think. Then again, I am not the highest on Green Bay.
Like Green Bay, it's like Jordan Love. I'll take him over Kirk Cousins right now. They don't have the weapons, but they do have Josh Jacobs. He should bring a different element to their offense.
I want to know, and again, we'll talk about this.
They're like the same.
I want to know what Chicago is. That's a team.
How fast can Caleb Williams get it going?
Yeah. I mean,
that's the question mark with them. How fast can he really get it going?
I mean, they're not as star-studded as the Eagles, but like you mentioned, their wide receiver trio, you add in a DeAndre Swift, a Cole Kmet. Yeah, man. Like they're an interesting young team. It's just division. Like Green Bay and Detroit are both ahead of you right now. Are you good enough to catch them? Is that defense in Chicago good enough to catch them?
I think they're good enough to catch Green Bay. I do.
Yeah, you and I are certainly not here for the Packer talk. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because we play them first or what. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think what it is, man, is that they caught a lot of hype for beating the Cowboys in the postseason, which is like not the biggest feat in the world, if we're being completely honest. Like, I don't know. I just think they're getting a little bit of overhype. Jordan Love looked great last year. It
all starts with him, man. But he looked great for fucking 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that doesn't translate to this year.
Does he continue that, or does it?
But again, before we move on to the Eagles, Scotty, I'm going to read you some names. And you're going to sit here, and people are going to look me dead in my eyes and try to say this with a straight face, that the Green Bay Packers have a better offense than the Philadelphia Eagles. A, Jordan Love is not better than Jalen Hurts. I do not give two fucks how impressed you were with his second half last year. I don't care that he beat the Cowboys and Jalen went home early miserably against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Jalen Hurts, a year prior to that, outplayed the greatest in the world in the biggest fucking stage and won his conference. Jalen Hurts already has done more than Jordan Love. Josh Jacobs, 2 years ago, he was the rushing champ. Last year, he was god-awful on a bad Raiders team. We'll see what he is. Now, here's where we get to the good part, Scotty. Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Luke Musgrave, Dontavion Wicks, Tucker Kraft. These are the motherfuckers that Jordan Love has to get the ball to. And you are going to look me dead in my face and tell me that is better than A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, Dallas Goedert, and Jahan Dotson. Stop. Get out of the room.
It's
You're
the Hurts
no longer allowed
disrespect.
to talk. I mean, it's unfucking believable.
It's the Hurts disrespect. That's the only way that you can say that offense is better than the Eagles is by thinking that Jordan Love runs laps around Jalen Hurts. That's the only way you can say that.
It's unbelievable, man. I cannot, honestly, you are right. It has something to do with that week 1 matchup as well and all this offseason hype surrounding them. I can't wait.
I just hate that it's in Brazil because I feel like it evens the playing field a little bit.
But I can't wait for this team to put that whole fucking story to bed very quickly.
Yeah, I agree, though. I agree, man.
Fuck out of here, dude.
It'd be fun, man. And once again, Howie Roseman, pat on the back, Howie, because you just always answer the call anytime.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't even know how to commend him anymore. He's just the GOAT, of GMs. It's just ridiculous.
It really is. Bro, could you imagine an off season for your team being like the Cowboys or something? Honestly.
I'd be
I don't care how delusional a person you can possibly be. There's no way that I, in my right mind, if you're Dallas, you watched how last year ended. We ended not as badly. I mean, the collapse overall was worse, but the game in the playoffs, Dallas was worse. But we ended just as badly, same round. I could not imagine ending the year like we did last year, losing players, losing coordinators, adding nothing, and then thinking I can compete for a Super Bowl title this year. I don't care how, I can't imagine being that delusional.
Yeah, I can't either, man. Bring it back. We bring back CGJ, exactly, right? They bring back Ezekiel Elliott.
Seriously, bro. I could not.
And then you got the CeeDee Lamb thing, right? You got the CeeDee Lamb contract thing, and it's you watch over in the other side, and it's A.J. Brown and Smitty have already been paid, along with Saquon, along with Hurts, along with Goddard, along with down the line.
We're only a few short years away from Micah Parsons being an Eagle.
We're putting together the Penn State squad. We may as well bring him in, bro.
You already know he wants to be.
I don't know. It's funny, thinking about Dallas and Jerry Jones, and he's like Mr. Moneybags. Yet the Eagles are the one putting the money in the players.
By the way, Jerry, this is what going all in looks like. Okay.
Yeah.
But the funniest part, Scotty, is the comment he made this offseason about throwing away your future just to go all in for one season. The Eagles, as we saw how we do this offseason, he put on a masterclass of locking up almost every single important core piece on this team for 4 to 5 more years. Their skill positions. I mean, Jahan Dotson's 20. They're incredibly young. On the offensive line, they got younger from this turnover. Defense, they obviously got they're youthful. They're locked up for years. Team-friendly deals. What are you talking about?
From Jerry's perspective, what are you building for tomorrow? Doesn't he want to see the Cowboys win before he passes? I'm not trying to be morbid or hateful here at all. He is just old. It could happen any day, and you're living for tomorrow with the Cowboys. You're not going all in.
He ain't living for tomorrow, bro. He's living for next year, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah, next season. I don't know, man. The Cowboys Should be fun this year. I'm looking to have a good time. I'm hoping for a sweep this year against Dallas. I'm tired of splitting games with them.
I am going to be honest, man. Going into the season, I know we're going to do our record predictions. It's going to be very hard not to have them split when you're trying to be fair with your predictions and everything, and not just be a homer. But from a talent perspective, this is one of the years that I'm looking at, and I go, this team should not be able to beat you. They just show. I don't care if it's in Jerry World. I don't care where it is. That Dallas Cowboys team should not be able to beat this Eagles team.
It's going to be so interesting to see how many games this team wins and then in return loses. Like I'm looking at the schedule. Like, yeah, the Browns could beat us. The Ravens could beat us, right? There's a couple teams. The Rams could beat us in LA. That could happen. The Cowboys could beat you in Dallas. We got the Bengals in Cincinnati. Even the Packers in Brazil. It is in Brazil. It's a little weird. You could lose those games. I mean, but how many of them are you just locking in as losses? Yeah. Like that's where I'm at right now. It's hard for me to kind of pick like wins and losses on their schedule because my head are just gonna be there. Like they should, like on paper, they should beat almost any team in the NFL. That's why they're Super Bowl contenders, man. But it's going to be interesting because, like, even with the Ravens matchup, it's like I say, oh, they could lose that game in Baltimore, but that's going to be one of the biggest games of the season that the Eagles are going to get up for, I would imagine. So listen, will they lose it? It's going to be
I know. And again, that's kind of where you do mark your L's on your prediction is like when you had those back-to-backs, one's on the road, it's like, I can't pick them to win this one. But here's the issue. They're going to win a game you put as a loss. They're going to lose a game you think there's no fucking shot they should lose.
The Commanders.
Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe they are all business like they were in 22 and they do not lose to bad teams. But it seems to happen to every team every year.
Yeah.
There's a game you're looking past a team to get to Dallas or whatever. Yeah. Also, having a week 5 bye is fucking terrible. I cannot
that early in the season.
Our bye that early in the year. I don't even know with the extended season. I don't even know why there's any bye weeks before week 6 or 7. Like it's just pretty asinine to do that to a team. But whatever, man. What was I gonna say before we move on to the Phillies here? And I know we're about to be a little negative with the Phillies, but nonetheless, they are still going to be playing playoff baseball in October, and the Eagles will be over a month into their season, and the Sixers will be starting their championship expectation run here in the city. Dude, this fall and winter is going to be so fucking fun to cover and to talk about each and every show.
It should be, yeah. It definitely should be. I know. I'm being like pessimistic there. I'm just kidding. But no, it is. We have a nice schedule laid out here for us. With the Phillies, hopefully lock that division up.
Look at this.
The bye in the first round.
Look at this, man. Yeah,
man. We can finally get some Flyers talk on the show, bro. Like we don't have to just completely ignore them.
Dude, I feel like I have not really talked puck in 4 years.
I was going to say too. But yeah.
I was doing this show, the Phaithful Phanatics show, in a studio in Bucks County with Gint and George and my man Snap. Right as like COVID, right after sports started to come back and they were doing the bubbles and stuff, and the Flyers were they won the round robin tournament to be.
I remember that, man. I remember
in the first round. Then they went down 3-1 against the Islanders in the second round, came back, forced a game 7. It was a tie in late in the game 7. I feel like I haven't really talked about them since then. They haven't given us any reason to, but
it's funny, man, because like at that point I thought like maybe this was the beginning of like
so did I.
Years in a row of playoff hockey. Like
here's where your boy can be wrong and can admit when he's wrong. I went on Parcero's show. This is the beginning of DSM. Parcero was not a part of DSM yet, and I forget what his show title was at that time. But he had me on his pod, and we were like in this part of the summer, like this dead part. Football didn't start yet. Hockey, basketball, nothing was going on, and he asked me And I believe this is before the Phillies like this was 2021. Like this is pre World Series run, pre everything. And he sat there and asked me which team I think is closest to a championship. And the Flyers had just had a fucking amazing free agency period, dude. They traded for Ryan Ellis. They brought in Rasmus Ristolainen. Their core was still there. Hart was on the up and up. And I said the Flyers were the closest. Holy fuck. Was your boy off? Yeah, man. He might be live. They might be. I think they are live right now. I think the Anthony Gargano
might be live right now.
Yeah. Goes on at this time, man. But
I should see Parcero this weekend down at the Shore.
Hell yeah.
Should be fun, man.
Oh yeah.
Tomorrow, actually. Yeah.
But they wanted to get in. Hold on, in the comments, they wanted to get in some quick Sixers talk before we get to the Phillies gloom and doom, Scotty. Here is something that I've seen on social media. So just a free flowing topic, if you have the time for it.
Yeah, we're good.
Yes, we've seen how Jack Tyrese looks. Been in the gym. I think he did put out a tweet that we got him drug tested because everyone was talking about it, and he got a random drug test. But I've been seeing tweets and questions from other Sixers content creators. Shout out Philly Take RB. He was asking, like, man, we're sitting here talking about Joel. Like, Joel's going to be Joel, right? MVP-esque, hopefully. Bringing in Paul George, all these new pieces, because the new toys are always fun to play with. They're always fun to have. What's another leap for Tyrese Maxey? Like, what if he takes another leap? What if he's a top 5 point guard, top 6 point, like, in the NBA?
It's funny, man, because Paul George had Chet Holmgren on his pod the other day, and Chet asked him at the end of the pod, like, he's like, let me fuck your chemistry up real quick. Who's taking the last shot of the game if you need a game-winning shot? And he was like, is it going to be Joel or is it going to be you? And, I'm just sitting there thinking, like, it's not going to be either of them guys. It's going to be Tyrese Maxey, the guy that can dribble and get his own shot, that can maneuver around a screen, that can, he can do everything. He can hit the three off the dribble. He's the guy you give the shot to at the end of the game, man, because he has all the tools in his bag to get a good shot at any moment in the game, as long as he's not being double teamed. So I think you saw that against the Knicks in that, what was it, game 5 or game 4, where he hits that big shot from like the Knicks.
5, because we lost 4.
Yeah. So I mean, it was I don't know. The ceiling is off for Tyrese Maxey. That's where I would put it for him, man.
The roof is off. It's just sky's the limit. See the
tops down. Like he's gonna do what he's got to do. The kid, it's really his mentality over everything. He just works so hard. Getting the bag, I think, is just only gonna make him focus even more on basketball. And man, I mean, who knows? Like, do you see him in MVP combo? I don't know. Like,
dude, I bring it up because I feel like it's
take that tax off of Embiid during the regular season. Honestly, you should see an uptick in Maxey's numbers.
It's been such an underlying topic this offseason, right? Because like the leap he took last year, how he was able to, save them in game 5, like you said, the big playoff performances, the big time shot making ability. It's almost like it's like he arrived, right? Like that was Tyrese Maxey's coming out party. He's a star in the NBA now.
Yeah.
But he's still continuing to grow. And that's the
what is
point,
he? 22?
Right? Like,
23.
He's more than that. 23? Yeah. So
23 years old.
Like I saw Martian's comment, like leap would be Brunson heights. That's MVP conversation like you were talking about, but maybe like
I think his talent level is higher than Brunson's, man. Like if he was in New York and able to do what he wants, doesn't have Joel Embiid there, he's averaging 30 plus a game. Like he averaged 30 points a game in the playoffs.
Yeah,
against the Knicks, he averaged 20.
This is something else, man. This is something else, and it's out of his control. He just has to keep working. But like this takes his game to another level, right? Like maybe he's not getting James Harden and Joel Embiid-esque whistles,
Brunson calls, right?
Yeah, but maybe he's getting a little bit more respect when he gets to the rim, right? And that'll tick on an extra 2 points per game, maybe. And just make life easier for him and less taxing on his body, knowing he can get to the free throw line a
Yeah,
little bit more.
brother. I'm just looking at Maxey's playoff number. I know it was only 6 games against the Knicks. 29.8 points per game, 6.8 assists per game, 5.2 rebounds per game on 47, so 48% from the field, 40% from 3, and 89% from the free throw line.
He arrived, bro. He
With
balled.
Tobias Harris on the roster.
Yeah. Yeah. And now you add in Paul George and Caleb Martin and Eric Gordon and Reggie Jackson and Andre Drummond and Jeremy. It's just
He's a gamer, man. His numbers
further
go up in the postseason. It's amazing. Yeah,
it's
I'm
further
so
away
happy
than the
this year.
Eagles season. Football season always reigns king to me over NBA season regardless. And I've seen the Eagles do it obviously way more recently than the Sixers have done it. So I do have more confidence and belief in the Eagles, but I am almost as excited for the Sixers than I am for the Eagles. And the way last season ended, I did not think that would even be a possibility. Now, it could be fool's gold. This is just a cycle, right? I can't wait for these two teams to start. They disappoint. The Phillies don't win it. Come December, I'm tired of this. I can't wait for baseball to start. It's the cycle. It's a sports fan. It's Philly sports in general. But I mean it, man. The teams we have in this city right now are the most talented at the same time than I think we've ever had in our life. Past our lifetimes, maybe ever. Like, dude, honestly, like when the Sixers were winning titles and had Moses and Dr. J, what were the Phillies and the Eagles at that time? You know what I mean? Like all three teams.
Maybe the
are
Phillies
stacked.
were good at that time. I don't know.
I don't know. That's
I was not
my
alive.
parents' childhood. But
I think in this era, I mean, when you said that, my mind went back to, like 2000 season, 2001. It's probably like the McNabb and, B-Doc beginning of that era from like 2000 to 2000, 6, 7-ish, I guess. And you had the Iverson team. But even then, that Iverson team is not touching this roster that the Sixers have right now. Like, I'm not saying that this roster is definitely getting to the NBA Finals and doing what that Sixers team did. But from a talent standpoint, Joel Embiid, Allen Iverson, and then the rest of the team, it's not even fucking close. So
God, no.
Yeah, and then the Eagles, I mean, we already know. Yeah, you're spot on, because to have 3 teams right now that you can honestly say has more than a reasonable chance to win their respective league title. I mean, you can go out on a limb and say each of these teams are a top 5 team to win the championship in their respective
easily.
Easily. The lowest on that list, right?
I think
probably number 5.
But meanwhile, I believe they had the 3rd highest odds right now on books.
Yeah, because who would you put over the Sixers right now from the entire league standpoint? The Celtics.
You got to keep Boston, even no matter how difficult it is to get back there and repeat. But you got to keep Boston up there. I'm being serious. I don't think I'm taking anyone else out of the East over them. I don't care that they lost to New York. I don't care that New York added Mikal Bridges. I simply don't care.
Yeah.
You and I talked about it even during the series. The Sixers were a better basketball team. Like, if Joel Embiid is not, saggy-eyed and broken kneecap, what does that look like, right? The Bucks, I'm not taking over them.
I do think the Bucks are going to be better than they're like getting no hype
forgotten
going
about.
into this
They're
season.
definitely forgotten about. But I would not take them over the Sixers to win a title.
Yeah, not with Doc Rivers.
And out west, man, the West is that's the thing, dude.
It gets tough out there.
Such a dogfight that they're
Denver's lost people.
Yeah, and by the time any of those teams come out of the West, they're going to be so taxed. Denver's lost people.
Should be really good in theory. Like, they were number 1 seed last year. You pick up Caruso and Hartenstein, add that to it.
Right. What's Minnesota's going to be up there again.
Yeah. Dallas
obviously went last year.
But if you are in that field that thinks like the Sixers are right there with the Celtics in the East, are those like Dallas?
Right.
What got 4-2? Was it gentleman's sweep against the Celtics in the finals?
Yeah, I think so.
So they're not really that close to the Celtics
No.
in theory, right? Like I don't know. The West is interesting because there's all those teams. There's some great teams out there, and then there's probably like 3 to 4 great teams, or really good teams in the East. Like I would say the Knicks and the Bucks, they're hovering from really good to great teams in the East. I think the Sixers right now on paper, man, I think they are an elite team in the East. I think they are a great team. They just got to put it on the court, of course. It's hard to say that any team's going to match the Celtics right now without seeing it, just to give them the respect they deserve for last season. But the Sixers are right there, man. You could argue them number 2 in all reality in the league. Like, to your point, like the West has to battle amongst each other and then come to the East, where the Sixers just have to get through, maybe in the first round, if the Sixers are able to get, a 2-3 seed, they end up playing like the Orlando Magic or, the Indiana Pacers, like the Cleveland Cavaliers, right? That right there is going to be easier than anybody that you would see in the first round in the Western Conference. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I'm more than excited for that as well. But to your point earlier, these 3 teams specifically, the Phillies, the Sixers, and the Eagles, definitely at a really high point, and probably combine them all 3 together, we're at the highest point in history.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I'm trying like not to hype them up just to be like heartbroken at the end of each season, but it's okay, hard not to be excited, man. We're gathering so much talent. Like the last couple of years, we have brought in Paul George, Trey Turner, and Saquon Barkley. As far as a talent standpoint across the 3 leagues, like these are coveted franchises that people want to play for as well, which is a great thing, man.
It's crazy, dude. Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, JT. Like it's
like how many all-stars, how many all-pros in each sport, right?
How many Hall of Famers at the end of the day might be in here?
Yeah.
So it's a fun time, even though we're in a negative moment, even though we're in a frustrating moment. Martian, here it comes. Close your ears, cover your eyes. The Phillies lose 2 out of 3 to Atlanta, man. They lose last night 3-2 after Christopher Sanchez goes 6 innings, 3 earned. The bullpen was solid from the 7th through the 7th and 8th. Frustrated. Like I said this to you to start the show. See you, brother.
Respect, bro.
That's where I'm at. Like, again, I'm not going to take anything they're doing right now and turn it into this is who they are. They're not going to win anything. The manager has to go, so on and so forth. But I'm getting very frustrated. And the reason I'm getting frustrated is it's the same things that caused you to be knocked out the last 2 postseasons on the biggest stages.
Yeah.
Your 1 through 3 hitters in this series, what did I tell you on Monday's show? This was the biggest series up to this point. You had a 7 or 8 game lead, 7-game lead heading in this series in Atlanta. They are beat up. You have Wheeler, Nola, Sanchez going for you on the bump. You have to take advantage of this opportunity. And your leaders, your stars, combined to go 2 for 33 and strike out what felt like 57 times in this series.
33 times, right? That's what it felt like.
I'm almost speechless. And beyond those 3 guys struggling, Bryson Stott continues to be lost at the plate. Brandon Marsh. Brandon Marsh is long fucking gone at this point. Yeah. Brandon Marsh looks like he cannot swing a baseball bat for the last 2.5 months of the season. Weston Wilson earned some playing time. This is the decision that Topper got wrong, where I will get on him for a second. Alec Boehm did not need a fucking day off. Your best player at the moment did not need a day off. You were just off on Monday. What did Alec Boehm need a day off for?
Yeah.
Weston Wilson doesn't play third base. Really?
Yeah.
He comes in. What do you have? 3 errors? Or maybe he didn't get credited for 1 or 2. He had about 3 eye-glaring mistakes over at third base. He struggles. Johan Rojas, still not a professional hitter.
Yeah.
Gets taken out for a dude in what's his name? Chris, I don't know, Stevenson, who's not an MLB player. Johan Rojas got pinch hit last night. I get the righty and righty matchup, but he got pinch hit towards the end of the game for Stevenson. He should have been on the fucking roster.
Yeah.
I'm frustrated because the strong suit of this team that should never, ever, just like they shouldn't have had in game 6 and 7 last year, just like they shouldn't have gotten no hit in the World Series, they should never be this bad all at the same time. Trey Turner talked about it after the game last night. He said that it's not a concern, but it's weird. You're fucking right. It's weird, dude. Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, and Trey Turner should never combine to go 2 for 33 in a fucking series, in a series as big as this one, in 2 games as big at the bank last year in the NLCS.
How you get booted in the wild card round.
That is the annoying part, and they need to figure it out. And I know it's hard to tell with baseball, but when you see the strikeout end of an inning, I hate the fucking body language. I hate the facial expressions. I hate everything about them right now.
Yeah.
Oh, they all expand the zone. They struck out 14 times as a team this game. Spencer Schwellenbach with a over 4 ERA.
Yeah.
Struck you out 9 times. 3 hits, 1 walk. Honestly, that is shameful, bro. Shameful.
Yeah, and I said it to you, coming into this show, man. You look back at this series, and it's almost flabbergasting. I look at the totals, and I'm like, man, this Phillies team didn't score over 3 runs in any of the 3 games. They just couldn't get hot at one point in any of the 3 games. You basically total a total amount of 5 runs against your Schwellenbach and a guy that we have historically torched in Max Fried, right? And Fried goes 7 innings pitched in that. Just everything that could go wrong. You had to see a stare down. Now I get it was in a loss, but it's still just a level of disrespect in a sense, right? And not really, putting your chest up and really moving forward. That's where I'm at with this team right now. I think when you look at Topper specifically, I think some of the complaints are starting to come into fruition for real. Like when you look at the Alec Boehm situation last night, you add that on top of the Alvarado complaints from game 1 of the series. Then you go back to the last game of the series against the Nats. You didn't pinch hit Bryce Harper or JT Realmuto in that game. So then these losses start to add up, and then you really do start looking at Topper like, oh, my God. Once again, it's like the resting thing is you can't indict him too much on it because he's not going to rest guys in the postseason. So, that's fair.
Yeah.
But why are we resting guys, right now either? You know what I mean? I don't get that. I get that it's 162 games. I just don't think you should be so dialed in that you could win this series against the Braves, a very important series against the Braves.
Yeah.
Maybe Alec Boehm is the difference last night in a game where you lose by 1 run. I don't know. I don't get the thinking there.
Why aren't if you're such a believer in resting guys, and again, he's been very good ever since his first 30-game slump to start the year. That is Nick Castellanos. Nick Castellanos has played in every single game this year. Every one of them.
It's a fair point.
So
he plays every game, but Alec Boehm can't. A younger player as well.
That's the point I don't understand. And then here's my issue, man. I want to be confident in them heading into this series. They're a better baseball team, obviously, than the Kansas City Royals. Like, if you have World Series expectations, I get the Royals are a good, fun, exciting lineup. If you have World Series aspirations, you better be a better team than the Royals. The issue is you're going on the road while struggling, and you're playing a very dangerous young Royals lineup, and you have to throw out Tyler Phillips, Taijuan Walker, and then, speaking of rest, rumors are swirling that Topper is leaning towards an opener and bullpen game in Game 3 to give the starters an extra day because it's important at this point. I mean, Scotty, like, theoretically, you're staring down the barrel of a sweep if that's the case. Phillips, Walker, bullpen game. And I'll ask you,
right now,
why is it so important to get? Like, I get it. Like you need them to go deep in the postseason, but like, so it's not okay to maybe tax Wheeler or Nola or Sanchez at this point, but you're going to tax your bullpen because let me ask you something, Topper. You don't think you're going to need your bullpen with Taijuan Walker on the mound after 4 innings?
Right.
You think Tyler Phillips is going to throw another complete game, or are you going to need your bullpen in those innings as well? And then you're going to throw them an entire game. Like, you're just forfeiting that one.
Have they announced Tyler Phillips for the second game? Because it's not showing up.
I don't believe.
I'm seeing Taijuan Walker tonight. It's undecided for the next game, and then it does say in ESPN that Wheeler's getting the start in the third game, but obviously that could change by Sunday. But
right.
Either way, though, to your point, like that's where we're at with the pitching rotation right now.
I do have to address this though. It's not the same. It's not even remotely in the same ballpark as being the same. For a few reasons. Did Seattle's manager take them to the World Series 2 years ago? No.
It's fair.
Did Seattle's manager take them to a Game 7 of the NLCS last year or the ALCS last year? No. Did he have them as the best record or one game out of the best record of baseball this year? No. Are they in first place of their division? No. They are 20 and like 34 over their last 54 games. The Phillies are like 23 and 25 over their last 48. They're right around 500. Even though it's been so bad, they're right around 500. Their Mariners were like 14 games under 500.
What do you think it would
take? We haven't lost the division, bro. We're
going down a dark rabbit hole here. And I do want to ask this question. Like, what would it take to get Topper on the hot seat and ultimately
it would take them officially losing the division
and then getting booted in the first round,
being forced to play a wild card round and losing before the NLCS.
Yeah.
Then yes, I agree. But if he fucking takes them to a World Series or a Game 7 of the NLCS again, and the bats go fucking cold in Game 7, how does that mean the manager gets fired?
Yeah. That's the problem with them right now. The issues are widespread. It's not just one area of the team right now.
This is probably my biggest pet peeve with him. And when he does things like this, obviously, what does that mean? Your lineup is never stable. Your best lineup's never out there for multiple stretches in a row, which is what I want. It's what great winning teams do. That's my biggest pet peeve with them. It's not pinch hitting down 2 in the 9th. It's not leaving a guy one batter too long when they're already losing the game by 2 or 3 runs. It's this. I do not comprehend in a moment where you had an opportunity to sweep the Washington Nationals at home, where you had to rest both JT and Bryce and Stott, and I think Marsh all in the same game. Boehm did not need a day off when you had a day off Monday.
Not in a crucial division game.
It fucks up the lineup. And yes, this is the trickle down effect, right? Because if you don't punt that Nationals game, then you gain that half game or full game on Atlanta, and instead of 6, it's right where it is at 7 or 6.5, whatever it would be. So the games do matter. However, I have to state, so did the first half of the season. Like, I get recency bias and ugly. Like, it's frustrating. But, like, did all those series wins, did all those sweeps in the first half mean the same as these losses? Yeah. And they are still through all this ugliness, through all this disaster, one game out of the best record of baseball. That's the thing.
For me, what worries me, and I don't know how far the worry goes, I guess, because we've talked about this for weeks now. They've been in this slump. I thought that the National Series would be where they kind of get their groove back, get back on track, and start playing great baseball again. And they win that series. You think, oh, well, they lost the last one. Maybe that doesn't hurt too much. And then they come out flat against the Braves. And so, like, I guess for me now, I'm like, where there's going to be no like series where in the foreseeable future where they can like bank on them getting a chance to like really get it going and dominate a team and sweep the series and feel really confident moving forward. You got the Royals in Kansas City. Then you come back home. You get the Astros. Astros aren't the typical Astros of past
They're
years.
hot though right now.
They're still playing good right now. And then you get the Braves again in Philly, which obviously is going to be a series you can't imagine them not getting up for. But at the same time, it's going to be a series that comes with a ton of pressure. So I guess that is like my worry. But I guess I just can't worry about it. Like, that's just part of the season, right? Like, they're either going to turn it on or they're not. And it doesn't really matter who they turn it on against, right? Like, that's the caliber team they are. If they turn it on against the Royals in this series, they can win the series. They turn it on against Astros, they can win the series. It's just, when are they going to turn it the fuck on? And that's what we've been waiting for what, a month and a half, 2 months? I mean, that's where my concern comes in. But I guess I just looked at this Braves series in Atlanta like, if this isn't a wake-up call, specifically for the bats, what the hell is going to be the goddamn wake-up call? You couldn't get over 3 runs against the beat-up Atlanta Braves?
I agree.
It's not Spencer Strider coming out there for one of them games. Like, I don't know, man.
I will say, to your point about how
it does waver a little bit, but
how it doesn't really matter who they turn it on against. People, we still have to realize that it's August. So they could turn it on for 2 weeks, but then what happens if they go cold 2 weeks before the playoffs? And I know we all love a barometer test, right? We love the big series, the Brave series, right? When we sweep the Dodgers, we love that, right? But what do we know about baseball and playoff baseball specifically? It's a momentum sport, right? Yeah. So let's say the Phillies limp for the next month, and we're now getting to late September, and we play the Mets, the Cubs, and the Nationals to wrap up. Or even just the Cubs and Nationals for 6 games.
Yeah.
And they're 2 games up on Atlanta, 3 games up on Atlanta for the division, and we're shaking in our boots. Well, it's not Atlanta. It's not the Dodgers. It's not the Yankees they're playing. But what happens if they go 5-1 or 6-0 in those 6 games, and the bats are averaging almost 6 runs a game heading into the playoffs? And then they win the division because of that, and now they're scorching hot. It's not – baseball is just different when it comes to the who. There's a lot more timing to it than a football game, right? Like, if the Eagles beat up on the Cardinals and the Vikings, but then lose every big matchup in the regular season, well, what do I think about the Eagles? They're not good enough. But baseball's so long and drawn out. You're going to beat the good teams. You're going to lose to the good teams. You're going to beat the bad teams. You're going to lose. It's all flow. So maybe they limp for another 3 weeks. Maybe they limp for another month. But you get that Mets, Cubs, Washington series, they get hot. Next thing you know, they're heading into a bye, scorching hot and ready to compete for a World Series again. That's what I mean by you cannot get overly frustrated, right? You can get frustrated. I'm fucking frustrated. And I'm losing money on them because I'm an idiot. But that does not mean you can look a month and a half ahead almost and tell me they're no longer a World Series contender. Because if you do that, I promise you, if you do that, do not talk to me if they are making a run in October. Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're not good enough. Maybe they get knocked out in the NLDS. Okay, congrats to you. But if you're going to sit here and tell me they're not a good enough team, the manager needs to be fired, the bats had the same issues, the bullpen stinks, and then they get back to a World Series, I don't want to see you on Twitter. I don't want to see you at nowhere. Don't be anywhere near me talking and praising this fucking team, because I tried to tell you for so long, the flow of an entire baseball season is crazy long, man. So
they need to get it together very soon, man.
I agree.
I think if you're watching, you can probably tell my confidence in the Titans is wavering right now.
I agree.
And I do feel you. Like, I'm not losing like sight of their ceiling of what they can be, but it is. It's like as each series, you have this like what feels like a monumental loss. You know what I mean? Like the Nationals game felt like a monumental loss, and maybe it's partly the fans making it that way, and then partly the body language on the field, the things that are happening, the mistakes that are being made. Then you get to the Braves. I don't know. I need that wake up call ASAP.
It's disappointing, sure, but did we not learn anything about the last 2 years? And how baseball is played and what this team can do when it matters most. Now, yeah, they've shrunk when it matters most. The bats have gone cold. That's why they've lost. But they've also been to the biggest stage, had a World Series lead, had an NLCS series lead. Like, they were a sub-90 win team, a 90-win team last year. And when they got to the playoffs, Scotty, when they played Miami last year, when they played St. Louis last year, was anyone suggesting heading into those series that they're not good enough? No. But now we have a different level of play through the regular season, and people don't know how to act anymore. Am I saying, like, it is not okay if they blow the division lead? No one is suggesting that. But we still have a long time to determine whether or not that happens. And let's just see what the fuck happens come October, because they're going to be playing in October for the third straight season. So
there's 35 games left for the Titans in this regular season. They're at 74 wins.
Right. So even if you go 17-18, a game under 500 the rest of the way, you win 91 games. And I think they're going to go much better than 17-18.
Yeah, I remember a time where we talked about 100 wins, and it's not looking very.
No, it's a little bleak. But dude, here's the thing, though, man.
Every team is like that. To be fair, I mean, there's no team. The most wins right now is the Dodgers with 76, so they would also have to win like 24 games to get to 100 wins.
There's room to go on runs, Scotty. You play Toronto. You play Miami for 4. You play a struggling Tampa Bay team. You play the Mets twice, who I know are playing better ball, but still. You play the Cubs. You play the National. There is room for them to continue to get there. So,
and the Braves at home should be a series you win. Like, in reality, like it's just where we are right now. It creates this doubt,
and that's why I try not to get
against the Braves at the bank. Like,
that's why I try not to get too down, man. Now listen, Martian. To your point here, I know I keep talking about October. If they come out and next weekend lose 3 or 4 at home, you will get a different version of me on that Monday show. But my point about how you can't just overreact to each and every series loss. Okay, they lose this one. Well, what if they win 3 or 4 at home next weekend?
Right. What if they beat the Royals in Kansas City?
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying that that's likely. Obviously, the pitching, the starting pitching isn't looking great for that series, but you just never know, man. Like
the same Miami team that got smoked in 2 games of a playoff series. See, that's my point. Everyone gets so caught up in the regular season wins and losses. I mean, yeah, okay, what did the Marlins beat us earlier this year? I don't even remember.
They did. Yeah, they did. But that's the thing we were saying about the Braves, though. If the bats get going, then it doesn't matter against Kansas City who's pitching if the bats just do their job. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not confident, Martian. I'm not confident in saying that we're going to win that series in Kansas City.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
I'm not confident that I don't think they beat the Royals.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like they should win that series. It felt like they should maybe
I think
win the series against
I
Atlanta.
think who you have on the mound, you're going to be in a little bit of trouble, man. Now, you need Wheeler to throw Sunday, and if you can steal one of the first two, I think you're in great position to win the series. But I mean, you have Walker and then either Tyler Phillips or a bullpen game against a very, very good young lineup on the road, man. That's scary stuff. Scary, scary stuff. But anyway,
you come back home after that. You got the Astros, you got the Braves. If you can win both of those series, boom, we're right. Like, you are right. Baseball's a long season. I get it. It just makes it a little confusing, I think, when you get in these stretches and it's just like, man, you're waiting for them.
What do we think Taijuan Walker's stat line is?
Have tonight? This explosion. Does he, like, we're in one of these weird spots, bro, like where it almost feels like you could get like a fucking like Taijuan Walker gem just because nothing is making sense right now, if that makes sense.
I'll tell you what.
Like, nothing the Phillies are doing is making sense right now, so maybe you could, but I'd say, nah, he's going to get rocked tonight. Yeah. The odds say that. Yeah. But
what are the? I got to check out Bobby
Wood Jr. weird right now.
I got to check out Bobby Wood Jr.'s total bases tonight. And see what that looks like, because there's no way he doesn't get 2+ bases. His total bases are probably set at 2.5, not even 1.5.
Yeah, because he's a monster. I bet on him a few times this season. Let's see. Let's see bases.
Look, if Taijuan Walker can get you through 5 innings, that's a fucking win in itself. As long as he doesn't give up 7 runs when doing so. If Taijuan Walker can give you 5 innings, 3 runs, I'll take it.
So hits, it is plus money for Bobby Witt 2 hits. Let's see. Bases,
yeah, but what's his bases?
So bases, yeah, minus 145 for 2+ bases, plus 145 for 3+ bases. So,
man, I feel like I gotta take the 3+ bases
because he could just crank one and get them all in one at bat. So,
I mean,
yeah, man, and one thing I've been leaning on the last couple games is Bryce bases. I'm just waiting for him to like explode, and yeah, that's cost me some money lately as well. But his 2+ total bases is at minus 105.
Yeah,
interesting. It's just as soon as you bet on Bobby Witt Jr., he'll go 0-4 against Taijuan Walker, and the Royals will still win.
Oh, yeah.
Who else is top or resting tonight? Who would you best guess?
Well, JT sat what, Sunday?
Sunday. Bryce sat Sunday. Bohm sat yesterday.
Bryce isn't sitting for a while. Bohm's not going to sit. Marsh is a potential sit. I mean, I know he just sat Stott and Marsh 2 nights ago, but they're struggling so bad. And I didn't even pay attention. What is Michael Wacha throw? Is he right or left?
Let me see. Wacha. He's a righty.
All right. I don't know. JT's a possibility, I feel like.
3.33 ERA on the year.
JT's a possibility. Which I'll lose my shit if he does. But
they should go. Yeah, they don't need to rest anyone.
No, and I also need Austin Hayes to chop from this rehab assignment, because I need at least a serviceable hitter instead of Johan Rojas or Brandon Marsh every night.
How does that generally work on the injured list? He's already playing in the minor league.
It all depends whenever he and they
most likely when they return home, though.
No, not necessarily. Well, maybe, but that's 3 more games, and he had a rehab stint like 2-3 nights ago.
Yeah, I think he played 2 or 3 already.
Yeah, that would be a very long rehab assignment. So
And they need him back.
yeah. So I don't know. Like I get what you're saying. Like yeah, it does make sense just to bring him home.
It says August 23rd is his estimated return date, though.
And that's today?
Yeah. Same with Ranger Suarez as well. But obviously.
Maybe Ranger throws tomorrow.
Maybe.
See, that's another thing, man. I'm not even going to get into it. But like, you're missing Ranger right now. You're talking like, I know he sucked his last 3 starts or so, but you're talking like Ranger. You've been missing that for a month and a half.
Facts. Yeah, Ranger. Just the calmness of Ranger as well, right? Like that personality, just having fun out there. Like that's part of what they've been missing. I'm not saying Ranger brings all of that to the team. Like he's not the only guy that brings that. But that's what's off as well. Like people talk about vibes with Stubby, but the vibes are off right now with this team, and I think that is maybe the most concerning. But you know, because like it's like one of those things, and I guess maybe I put a little too much expectation in Bryce. After the Arcia stare down, I just expect him to crank one at some point before that series is over. Like I just expected that, but. Maybe it comes in the postseason nonetheless. Maybe he'll crank one then and stare him down. But they got to get it on track, man. Hopefully over this weekend. We'll see.
Ladies, who's ever tuning in right now, about 40 of you in here right now. If you are watching on Twitter, I'm assuming most of you are. Do us a favor. Head on over to the YouTube link specifically. Subscribe. Help us get to our first 200 on the newer channel. Excuse the illness today. The voice, the stuffiness. For myself,
Martian should be a comedian, man.
For DSM, have a great rest of your Friday. Have a great rest of your weekend, and tell our man Scotty to go have a good birthday weekend this weekend,
Appreciate
man. But
that, brother.
We'll be back with you guys next week and gearing up for football season. We're right there. Peace, guys.